Morning. We are going to be learning Halacha in Hilchos Brachos. In Hilchos Tefillah, Perek Zayin, Halacha Yudalad. And it's a famous Halacha, and very interesting how such a simple Halacha becomes such a controversial one. And just not to note that I've noticed that there's a big push today in various Jewish circles to be cognizant of this halacha. And it's interesting to note what we're going to discuss, what seems over here. Okay, so to begin with, I want to learn the Rambam inside. Perek Zayin Halacha Yudalad. Chayiv Odom Levarech Meya Brachos Ben Hayom V'Halayla. Person needs to learn 100 brachos. It needs to make 100 blessings every day. Now, the Rambam is very clear between the day and the night. Now, that's not what should have said. We should have said the night and the day, because that's the way the day goes. Starts at night and ends at the day. But the Rambam does not say that, and this is one of the probably the biggest issue that exists and the problems that it causes. Umahein mei brachos. What are they? And he goes through Elu Chav Gimel Brachos Shemaninu Perek Zeh. The 26 blessings that were mentioned in this Perek, which if you go back to the beginning of the Perek, he does begin with the night. Starts off when a person goes to sleep, but he's not talking about mei brachos. He just talks about brachos acheros. And then when he wakes up, what you got to do. Now we're going to talk about that there might be a specific reason why he did that, even though it sounds here that the mei brachos begin with the day, but yet he starts with night. We'll see that soon. Interesting. Let's just see the way he says it. They also established other brachos, and he said when a person goes into sleep, he says hamapel. And he reads the first parasha, Kriyashma. When he gets up, mevarech v'hu al mitosai. He blesses while he is still in his bed. Right? So the Rambam is obviously assuming that the first thing you do, we do Meida'ani, the Rambam's Meida'ani is L'kai Neshama. Right? So that's an interesting concept that we need to keep in mind as we are going to discuss a little bit afterwards what the meaning of this is, and how important this is, and how powerful this is. So we will leave this for now, and we'll get back to it shortly. Okay, so let's go back to the Rambam. So the Rambam tells us the idea that you're required to have mei brachos, and he says those other brachos are here, and he goes through all the things, gives you 86 brachos, and then he says you eat and you make brachos by benching and washing, and you get 100 brachos bein hakat. Now it doesn't give you the reason for the 100, just tells you it's 100 brachos. Now, then he adds that nowadays we have more brachos because we have the brachos of Milam Shinim, Ateva Native. So there's another 5. And then he says, Shabbos Yom Tov. Oh, then the davening is only 7 brachos. Or other days that he wasn't clear to say certain brachos, he didn't sleep, he didn't do certain things according to Rambam, you do it only when you have to. So you have to find other ways to be machshel. And then he goes on to say, what do? You eat, you make brachos over and over. Now then, brachos shenet tzricha there. It's not a brachos shenet tzricha because we spoke, there's a discussion of that in a different place that we discussed, and it's not a problem. Okay. That is the Rambam. Now, I want to just go through some of the others who discussed this clearly. But if you were to ask me, what is the Rambam Shitta, I would generally assume that he make you start the day and the night. However, it's not as obvious as some of the others. The Levush Simon Membav, that's where Shulchan Aruch this halacha is brought down, says after he puts on tefillin, yisader habrachos, he organizes the brachos, tikn chazal varachos and chalem, they may brachos. Now, here is the key. If you are going to count all those brachos every day, now, may a she is for when you wake up. The berachos kriyash until, and then till you go to sleep, you'll find at least 100, if not more. Whoa, what do you do on Tainus or Shabbos that you're missing those brachos? You make it up. And then he goes through the list, and that's so one clear cut day to night. Shibayli haleket, which is a rishon, and in the topic called Inyan Tefillah, writes clearly. Rabbi Shai is outside. This is one of the great leaders of that time. Writes in his psukim that b'nei adam shemaschilim b'mei brachas l'kain neshama shenafachti tahira. That's where it starts. But he has an issue with that. Toyim, they make a mistake because you can't stop with a l'kain neshama. Now we saw the Rambam says you do stop with a l'kain neshama. Now he writes, and so is it appropriate? He says you start with that they should start with Asher Yatzar, and therefore you have a bracha asmuch l'chavet, because you can't start a bracha without baruch unless the previous bracha had baruch, so therefore it carries over, which is called the bracha asmuch l'chaverto, which was not our discussion now, but this is an issue that he takes in. But then when he discusses but it's clear that it begins with the Maya brachas begin with the morning brachas. That's what he says clearly. Yeah. Now I just want to note that there's a mimer of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Tafshin Lamed, which is not edited, but obviously there was some edits put in. The Rebbe, it's about a Lag Baimer mimer, and the Rebbe there says the following, that Elikai Neshama is samuch to the bracha of Hamapil that you said the night before. Incredible line. And he explains there in his edit, in his note, not in the edit, in the note, that it's called the bracha after sleep. And he refers to some of the svarim that we mentioned. And he says it is considered a bracha that's smucha le hamapil. That's what makes it. That's what makes it the bracha smucha l'chaverta. And this is really a yeah. So and so he says that's he brings Shar Kelul this idea, but the idea is that it belongs to that bracha. That's what makes it smucha l'chaverta, which would be very good with the Rambam, because the Rambam clearly disagrees with everybody else and says that you start with the l'kain neshama. Just to bring out, so anyhow, let's go on to the others who follow this approach. Rav Amram Goin also writes to say that Elu Mei Brachas. He brings from Rav Natronoi Goin with a whole bunch of different names. You have to start with the morning, and you go till the evening, and he says, until you come to the night, you say, I'm up. The Smag says, Meya brachas, Kama Shas brachas ad yishtabach, Sheva brachas, and goes on. Avudra, Birchas, in the Birchas HaMitzvahs, he also says, Meya brachas b'neihem v'alayla. He starts off again with the morning brachas, and he goes through the whole list, and till he comes to the night, Birchas Yarneinu, and here goes the problem. What happens on Shabbos Yom Tovim? So here we got a problem. Ilay Shabbos is Yom Tovim. I'm a bracha achas min Sheva. Now where'd that come in? Makachin Kiddush Beisa, Umaysiv Umusav. She has Sheva brachas, and then he has a whole question of another 15, and this. But that we'll talk about shortly. So all of these people seem to be telling us that May brachas begins in the morning, goes till the night. The Beis Yosef in Shulchan Aruch there, on the tour, Simon Bob, Minyan May brachas kachu b'layla kishaylach lishen hamapo shachar mutir sedayim, and there goes clarity. Over Shabbos, chassid b'chol tefillah yud beis brachas, b'chas tefillin. So you're missing 37 brachas. Now the Rebbe follows the lead of the Beis Yosef and says, now he says that there's an Indian Kol Yom V'Yom. The B'chol Yom V'Yom lahashlim meyim yemei brachas. Okay, there's that you got to do brachas. I'm just starting in the middle of a sentence. That the ma'ashem mei brachas shchayvot B'chol Yom V'Yom erev v'ad b'ker, from the evening to the morning. And he brings the reason. Now here's another important point to note. What is the reason that he brings? Because it's a story that David HaMelech, in his time, there was a time when 100 people a day were dying. And say they did have an accurate count of deaths, not like we get out of certain places where things are magnified 10 times over, 100 times over. But they had exact count. 100 people exactly were dying every day. And they didn't know what the reason was until he searched and he understood with Ruach HaKodesh. Now, the Rambam stresses that. I want to make a note of that. Attributing problems to events is not something we can do unless you have Ruach HaKodesh. So, therefore, V'tikkun meya brachas b'chol yom. So he said, to counter that, he made 100 brachas in a day. In other words, the idea is that the day has to have 100 brachas. And then he brings a pasuk, Numa Gever, a pasuk by David, Hukam oil. And the word oil is 70 and 30 equals 100. Then he writes an interesting afterthought. Usmach David min HaTorah b'ati Yisrael ma'ashem l'kach shel mi'imach ki im li'yira as Hashem al tikra mo elameya. Mo is what is Abish asking of us? There will be a fear. Mo added an aleph and it becomes Meya. Now, okay, how did that happen? This is not our business, it's just as an afterthought. Okay, now those are the opinions. Now let's just take a few minutes to analyze the opinions. Now, the Avudram had also written, which we glossed over. He says that the problem in Shabbos is that you're missing 36 because there's only 7 brachas, and Tefillah Sachel, there's 19, so we're missing 12 in each Shemoneh Esrei. So that's because we have Ma'ariv, Shachris, Mincha. And the answer is you add Musaf and you add the Friday night. And this. Okay, so just to keep that in mind. So first let's try to understand, what is this idea that you start in the morning, go to night? Our tradition, when the Gemara and Brachas, the first block in the Gemara and Brachas sets up the day at night to the morning. The Tosefta in Zvachim says Perek Vav, Halacha Yudches, Chol Makom Hayei Melech HaChalayla. There's only one place not, Lachilas Kachim. When it comes to eating of kachim, we go halayla elech hachayim. Now, we know that many traditions have things where we attribute to kachim. For instance, the Fabrengens is after an event, the day of the event. One of the answers are kachim halayla elech hachayim. There are many times we use that. So one of the Mepharshim that I saw wants to say that they hold that when it comes to brachas, which is a holy thing, kachim, so it's halayla hilchachai. Okay, but it's a far stretch, but there are still problems, even if you say that. Another question. The Abudram says we're missing 38 brachas. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're missing 26 brachas. Because if you start from the morning and you go to the night, then you have Mitzvah Shabbos. And Mitzvah Shabbos, we daven a regular Shemana Esrei, 19 brachas. So those 12 come back. But he says clearly it's from Friday night that he's counting. But he said that it goes from the day to the night. So what's going on here? There's an outright contradiction in his words. And even there, it's not missing. It's not missing 38. It's only missing the 26. And then they say, then others ask after that question that it could be asked. You add to it Havdalah, Suda Malava Malka, and you're down to less than 20. Okay, another point. The Alter Rebbe brought the source of David HaMelech's story. Now, that story is a medrash. But the Gemara says, in Perek Hilchos, that how do we know that a person is required to say 100 brachas every day? So the Gemara says, because we learn it out. We learn it out from a second. We learn it out from this pasuk. Al tikra ma'alamei. Gemara in Menachos Daf Mem Gimel. The Gemara says, Tanya, some Bryce, Hayra Meir Aimer. A mayor would say, Chayiv Adam Levarach Meir Brachas B'Chol Shenem Haba'ati Yisrael Moshem Lekechet Sheil Mimach Ki Im Lira. Right? That's it. And we learn that Al Tikra Ma Elameya. He doesn't say those words, but that's the meaning. So, what's going on here? Why did Alter Rebbe bring a medrash preceding this Gemara? Now, okay. The bottom line is what I want to suggest. Now, what I'm saying, I'm not saying because I would say it without any. You need to be able to explain this Avudram, that suddenly he switches from the night to the day. So let's analyze the two sources. Source number one is the story of David. Source number two is the Abish is telling the Yidden, I'm only asking of you, Meya Brachas, for you. So I want to, and that really, that's Yira. Somehow know that's tied into Yira's Hashem. So I want to suggest that the difference between the two sources is like as follows. If it's David's source, it's not about the person, it's about the day. A day needs 100 brachas, and that way you took care of the Magefa, the plague of 100 people dying. According to the Gemara, Tikra Ma Elameya, is I'm just saying, you Jews, you guys gotta have 100 brachas in you. You gotta, your 100 brachas have to affect you. You want to become a Yerushalayim, make 100 brachas. That's gonna help. It's about you. Okay, so now let's analyze. If it's about the day, what's a Jewish day? Friday night, from at night to the day. If it's about the you, how we relate to the, what is the person's day? Person's day starts in the morning and ends at night. There's psukim about that. It's clear. That's the way a person works. So that would be the reason for the argument of which way to go. Perhaps if it's about us or it's about the day. Now, ask a person, what's your Shabbos? How does the person relate to a Shabbos, to a Yom Tov? Of course, it starts at night and goes into the day. So perhaps, now, it's a big Kiddush to say what I'm saying. But I don't say it. I'm just translating what the Avudraham says and what other Rishonim say. When it comes to Shabbos, it changes. Friday night to Shabbos day. Now, because that's the Shabbos. It can't put Shabbos for the week. Nobody identifies Shabbos for the week. At least not a healthy person who understands what it's about or lives it. And that's shot in this machlekes. Okay, so now there are things that need to be explained, and which I don't have explanations. So I can just going to tell you what seemed. And that's a problem even why the Alter Rebbe doesn't mention it in his issue. Or not the Alter, yeah. No, the Alter Rebbe is the best, no problems. Why the others don't mention it? If you count from night to day, correct? If you're counting from night to day on Shabbos only, what happens Friday? What happens to that? Does Friday missing at night or not? So perhaps it is, but it isn't, because it's still part of Friday. Person did wake up in the morning and he goes to sleep at night. But on the other hand, it's also part of the next. Is that true? I don't know. What about Matzah Shabbos? Where does that belong to? Perhaps it doesn't belong anywhere, according to them. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And I'm saying, I'm not, all I'm saying is that this is what could explain at least somewhat what the Avudraham says, and that will be the explanation. Okay, so I gesund, take care.